Right, welcome. Today we talk about the third of the Mahavidyas of the great mysteries of Tantra. And this mystery is called Tripur Sundari, which basically can be translated as the most beautiful maiden of the entire universe. Sundar means beauty. Sundari is the female form of beauty, so means a beautiful lady. And then Tripura means the three cities, which is generally seen as referring to the three worlds, meaning the physical world, the astral world, and the causal world, or the first heaven, you could say. So that basically means everywhere, but in scripture you find so many different ways then in which this is interpreted. Like we can say that these three cities are also the physical body, the mental body, and the soul. No? Or we can say that they are the three gunas. There are so many trinities in the whole story. So actually it just means everywhere. No? So the greatest beauty that is found everywhere. No? So that is what Tripur Sundari is. And maybe I'll first share my screen so I can show the images so that you have some idea. You should be seeing that now, yes?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. So we see here Tripur Sundari as a young lady who is extremely beautiful, and she has some items there also. One which I always found extremely attractive somehow is this bow made out of a sugar cane. In some pictures you will even find her also holding then 5 flower arrows which she will shoot with this bow, and so that totally explains what she is about. She makes everybody fall in love with her, be attracted to her. That's also actually the symbolism of the noose that she is holding. And she's also having this hatchet to, cut our attachments. These are typical symbols that we also find with other Mahavidyas, of course, and especially then with the Kali, which is all about cutting our attachments. But so she is very beautiful, she is very attractive. In some pictures you will even see bees around her which are attracted to her, like bees are attracted to honey. And one other name of her is Shodashi, which means the 16-year-old. So she is like, let's say, the optimal female beauty of a 16-year-old lady. There are some forms where actually there's also a 9-year-old, which has a different purpose somewhat, but okay, let's not go into that. And so you see in the same picture, also at the bottom you see the Sri Yantra, probably the most known or popular yantra in the world. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, because it's quite relevant, that she is associated with Sri Vidya. Sri Vidya being the original, you could say, female knowledge. Vidya means knowledge. Sri Vidya refers to the female side. So she is in that way seen as you could say, the number one of the Mahavidyas, but okay, that's also a little bit depending on your point of view. But so she is very important, and next then to the Sri Yantra, she also has another yantra, which is shown on the other side, and where you can see how the artist Peter Weltevrede, he was also integrating in the mandala around it, in those Vedic squares or crystals. He was integrating all the elements. You see the earth element, the water element, fire, air, akash. You see all these, because these relate very much to the 5 senses, which relate also to those 5 flower arrows that I was speaking about. And so they relate to how we perceive the universe around us. So here we come upon a third basic understanding about the universe that is very well expressed by the saying that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This must be known, I think, this expression. Somebody came up with it in 18th century, but actually referring to something that Plato was saying in the Greek time, and where he was basically meaning that what is beauty is not something absolute, like same for everybody, but that it depends very much on who is looking, right? So of course this is true, no? We all have different taste, different opinion on what we think is beautiful or not. But that is not the meaning of Tripur Sundari. It goes quite a bit beyond that. When we say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, what we mean is that it is the self. When the self is looking, it only sees beauty. In the eye of the beholder, in the eye of, you could say, the observer, no? And what is the eye of the observer but the self, no? Who is the observer? And so that observer only sees beauty, and in that way Tripur Sundari represents pure perception. Perception, you could say, unclouded by the ego, unclouded by personal taste or likes and dislikes, and especially unclouded by unhappiness. And that is the true meaning here, that if we can feel bliss inside by being close to the self, then everything that we see is beautiful. Now this is even in a more general way, of course, true that if we feel happy, then everything around us also seems quite nice. But if we feel unhappy, then whatever we see, we don't like it. We even see a very beautiful flower and we're, yeah, it's not bad, you know. If we are not happy, then whatever we see, we kind of color it in a little dark shade. Yeah? While if we just fell in love with somebody and we see then a sunset, and you know, normally sunsets are like, okay, they're sunsets, they're not bad. But then when we feel in love and we see a sunset, we're like, oh, this is the most beautiful sunset I have ever seen in my life. Well, actually, it's not different from the other sunsets that we have seen. The only difference is in us, no? Because we have this bliss, we see differently. No? So that is the secret, that is the message. No? Whenever you are feeling the world around you is not very beautiful to look at, no, and if you watch the news and things, yeah, you can get that feeling, or sometimes also just watching people, how they behave or whatever. But then know that this is just your perception. No? This is totally colored by you. And it is then the time to return to this bliss of the self. And if you can do that, if you know the way, and you can find it, and then from there you look, then everything which you see is beautiful, then the imperfect becomes perfect. Now we talked about that last time a lot, how manifestation can never be perfect. No? Where I said if you are a man, then you lack all the good qualities of a woman, or if you are a woman, you lack all the good qualities of a man. For example, you have to kind of make a choice in manifestation, what form you take, and then always some disadvantage is there. So then you see a most beautiful yellow flower, and then you're, yeah, I prefer the blue ones, you know, like. So it's, when you look at it from the self, without any expectation, without any desire, without any personal coloring, then your perception really becomes pure, and the imperfect becomes totally perfect. And then even something which other people find quite ugly, you will look at it and you will see, there is still a beauty in it. No? It will allow you to see the beauty in everything. And of course, if all around you, you only see beauty, then that feedback that you get from your environment also is going to increase your feeling of happiness. And then again, no? Increase your appreciation of the beauty around you. And that's a little bit like where we have to get. In this way, the first three Mahavidyas are really seen and also named by Hari as the three main Mahavidyas, because they really give us such a very clear pathway to get out of unhappiness and towards happiness, which is the central objective of yoga. No? Kali teaches us the impermanence of things, but also the permanence, of course, of the whole universal game. So if we are aware of Kali, then we are aware of the danger of attachment, and then we start attaching more to life and the life force, as I said, in general, and not to any specific form that it takes, knowing that whatever comes has to go, and that whatever goes, something new will come instead. So then there's no reason to be attached to anything. No? So if we can do that, then okay, still sometimes things may not be the way we would like, and we can have some negative emotions, and then Tara comes and teaches us the power of the soundless sound, the inner silence, and the power also of Om and all the mantras that relate to it, and in that way brings us to inner silence. And I said it last time, if you can make this inner silence last a little longer, a few seconds, 10 seconds, automatically the bliss will come. Ananda, automatically it will come. And then if you have that, then it's time to again look out in the world, and then you will see only beauty. And then interact with it, no? And in that way your happiness will become more stable. No? So this is so very important. People who remember my teachings on jhana techniques will remember that I said that to find the self, let's say, there are basically three entries. And these three entries are also the three main, you could say, qualities of the self, usually described as Sat, Chit, Ananda, no? Truth, being, and bliss. So here we have Kali, Tara, and Tripur Sundari or Shodashi, which are also related to this Sat, Chit, Ananda. Kali brings us Sat, the truth of permanence and impermanence, the truth of non-attachment. And then in Chit, in the pure being, we are with Tara. We go to the purity of the self, and there we find the silence, we find the peace, and we can sail across our troubled waters, no, without being disturbed. And then we bring out Ananda, we bring out the bliss of the self, the feeling of peaceful happiness, you can say, of the self, and then we are with Tripur Sundari, and again out in the world, enjoying it as it is meant to be. So in that way, Tripur Sundari is also called Jnana Shakti, the power of jhana. Because the power of Tripur Sundari comes from the self, comes from understanding, comes from jhana, comes from seeing the truth and being in silence, the observer, and feeling the bliss. And then we can really enjoy life, so that samsara, the world of names and forms, which is an illusion, becomes itself nirvana, no? Becomes itself heaven, you can say, no? And so that the maya, the illusion, becomes the divine play, lila. So Tripura Sundari very much represents lila, and one of her other names is Lalita, which literally means playful, no? Graceful and playful. And she is also related in essence to the Ahladini Shakti. Ahladini Shakti is the power of giggling, which is supposed to be the most strong in young girls, right? Nobody can giggle as much as, young girls can. And so that little bit crazy happiness, no, that is there in Ahladini Shakti, that is the purpose of the whole universe. We've come upon this subject many times in many classes, why this universe was created. And so Tripura Sundari is the answer. It is the lila for which this universe was created. This universe was not created to all bring us back to cosmic consciousness or anything like that, because it was, we were there before. No? The reason only to start this game is for the game, is for the playing and for enjoyment. And Tripur Sundari is like the cherry on the cake, and she is not so much the most beautiful girl of the three worlds, let's say. No, she is the beauty of these three worlds. She is the beauty of everything. But the secret to this beauty lies not in the particular properties of whatever you find in the universe. It lies in yourself, in your perception. If it comes from a pure place, then everything is enjoyable, everything is beautiful. Then even the most plain food, let's say, can taste great. You see that when you start doing some kind of food fast, like you only eat rice or khichdi or something like that, for a while. And like people do a lot in India, and Durga fast, they are limited to some very specific foods, and the food is quite plain. And then after a while you really start appreciating that taste also, which before you might find really not very interesting. So truly, whatever we experience, it is our own doing, whether we like it or not. So in that way, Tripur Sundari is very much also about this game of like and dislike, which is a game that our mind loves playing, which is in a way, the purpose of mind. If you are, let's say, a monkey and you go around in the forest and you taste something, it doesn't taste nice, then you leave it. Then you taste something else, that tastes nice, I eat some more of it. So this is a very natural function of mind, like and dislike. We also, in that way, also need it. But at the same time, it is creating this huge illusion of a world where some things are nice and some things are not nice, which is an illusion, because that really depends on us. That really depends on our perception. In whichever situation we find ourselves, with whatever problem we are being faced, whether it is illness or old age or losing some relationship or whichever it is, is always a matter of our perception, how we see it. And we tend to take it very seriously and complain about this thing outside of us who is making us feel bad. But actually it's the other way around. It starts with us, and then whatever we feel inside, we project it around us, and the whole world is colored by it. So as Jnana Shakti, Tripur Sundari is very important. And again, I can refer there to Ramana Maharishi, for example, who very often was referring to a very important book called Tripura Rahasya, which are the teachings of Dattatreya about Tripur Sundari. Dattatreya is one of the Hindu gods, many of you will not know. He is actually Trimurti, which means he has three heads, one of Brahma, one of Vishnu, one of Shiva. There's a whole story attached to that, I'm not going to go into that. But very often where we say Patanjali is the father of yoga, then many sadhus will say, no. Much before there was Dattatreya. And the real teaching comes from Dattatreya. And what Dattatreya teaches is Tripura Sundari. With all the, related elements, of course, that we see then in Kali and Tara and so on, I have explained. These are just also ways of bringing a certain knowledge to us. We have to understand. And there are different ways to do that. And then another name for Tripur Sundari is Kameshwari. Kameshwari basically means the queen of desire. That is where the bees come in, She is so beautiful that she is creating a lot of desire. And she is here also for desire. This is also what the Tantrics say, this whole Leela, this whole world is created out of desire. And so the ultimate desire that we all have is for union, for togetherness, to put it in a very simple way, but for union also in a more spiritual sense of individual self with cosmic self. For Kameshwari, who comes from the Kundalini energy in the bottom of the spine in the first chakra, to raise up and join her husband Shiva, who is then named Kameshwara, in the place just before, you could say, 7th chakra. There's some discussion there whether it's already part of 7th chakra or not. And there joins Shiva or Kameshwara in the eternal union. And that then brings the enlightenment. Showing very clearly this relationship also between beauty and love. When I talk in another class about the Sringara rasa, the rasa of beauty and love, I explain that these two things actually are the same. We love what we feel is beautiful. Whatever we love, we also easily find that it is beautiful. Like I explain it to make it a little more clear by saying that, well, some husband who really loves her wife, you may show him pictures of 1,000 of the most beautiful women in the world, of real top models or whatever. But if he really loves his wife, he will look at his wife's picture and say, well, I still think she is more beautiful. And that is not just a story that he's telling to make her happy. That is really how he feels, because of the love. So when we love, we see beauty. We find beautiful, we love it. So this relationship is there, and so from bliss we find beauty, and we find love, and we find union. Now, when we look outside or we walk outside and we are in this good blissful state and we see beauty all around us, then very naturally we want to engage with everything. Then we want to go closer and look even better. Then that union we are seeking with that which is beautiful. While on the other hand, if we are not feeling very good, then outside whatever we see, we don't like it very much, then why would we want to, engage with it? Then we want to be on our own. So these things all are hanging together, and they are all in a way our own responsibility. And this then so very much touches on a subject that I feel is very dominant in modern yoga philosophy, and especially then among those that are teaching Advaita Vedanta. But where we find it also even in other yoga circles, among sadhus, for example, also, or at least some of those schools, where the whole world is seen as bad, where desire is seen as bad, where even love is seen as bad, and where we are pushed to withdraw from life, and there then, okay, find the self, find God, whichever way you want to name it, deep in our cave. So this subject again here comes very much to the forefront. And apart from, I would say, a lot of politics which are also involved in a way, this is also a misunderstanding that comes through the spiritual practice, and that I want to a little bit point out. When we start with meditation practice or yoga practice, we all have then these small experiences of bliss. We then so easily get attached to that. And we feel that whatever is happening in the world outside of us is keeping us away from this bliss, is keeping us away from the self. And so while that is of course also true, and while truly in meditation that is what we have to do, we have to shut out the whole world. We have to forget about it, so that we can go inside and find the self. But we should never forget that that which is there outside is beautiful, is divine, lila. You know? And it is important to understand that the reason why this is experienced in such a way is because the process is not yet completed. Now you could say that in between your individual consciousness and the self, there is like a wall. And so the people who are starting to, let's say, dislike the universe, dislike life, and want to escape from it, they have only been peeking over the wall. They had a little look over the wall. They had a little taste of the self. They had a little taste of the bliss. And some even then, they try to climb this wall, and they go up, up, up as far away as possible from the universe, but still they cannot cross it. Because actually it's not about climbing over something. It's about passing through something. You have to pass through this wall. And whatever technique you are using is going to do that, as long as you are willing to surrender to this. Because this feeling of climbing over something, that is something which we kind of like, because we have this sense of control when we climb over something. But to stand in front of a wall and really go into it and totally surrender and use then the mantra or whatever we have as a vehicle to pass through this fog, to pass through this wall, and then we really find ourselves on the other side. And when that happens and we look back, the first thing we notice is that there was no wall. Okay, that's part of the joke then. That's why many people start laughing once they've really had a deep meditation experience. But the second thing, which makes the laugh and the smile last so much longer, is that we then see the universe and see the beauty of it. Because with the full encounter of the self, we also have the bliss, the Ananda. And from this Ananda we look at the world and we see absolutely nothing wrong. We see only beauty. And we see that there's no need to escape from anything. That outside of us is just as divine as deep inside of us. There is nothing wrong. That beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so that is where the right understanding then comes. And where many of these oppositions in our thoughts, in our minds, they disappear. Like between yoga and boga. For those who do not know, I have a class called Yoga and Boga. Boga meaning fun, pleasure, enjoyment. So when we have passed through the wall and we look back through the wall which is no longer there, then we see nothing wrong with enjoyment, nothing wrong with boga. Only problem is attachment. And that is Kali which teaches us, right? Only problem is attachment to whatever is there which we find pleasurable. It came, so it has to go. If we can understand that, if we can accept that, which is the main thing, then truly we can live and be like a god, on earth and enjoy everything and not see it as in any way like contrary to our yoga philosophy. That is where Tantra Yoga is for me so very important and so very powerful, that it truly understands that and that it truly also brings this wisdom to us. The wisdom of the self as the pure, untouched, unborn, eternal, pure consciousness, that is only one part of the story. The same absolute truth, the same eternal truth we find in the universe, as I have explained with Kali in time, the timeless time, which is also never ending, so it's totally eternal, it never changes, even though the appearance changes. That's what actually creates time. When things change, we notice time, But actually it's an illusion, because the whole thing is timeless. So we should just not get attached to anything, that's all. And the second in Tara, that's the original sound, the soundless sound, and then also, all the sounds that relate to it, the mantras and so on, are the ones that are going to purify our emotions. No? But so that sound is also never ending. It is always there. Sometimes we feel, oh, I cannot find the silence inside. But it's not because it's gone, It's always there. Eternal. It never changes. It's always there for us. Only we have to keep quiet. Then we can hear it. It's only our nonsense which stands in the way. No? If we can stop the nonsense talk, which I explained last time also, is basically a complaining mode, and a questioning mode. Why this? Why that? Why me? When it's going to end? What should I do? As long as we are there, we cannot find the silence. And we cannot find any real solution to our problems. If we can just stop that and be silent, then silence we get, and then bliss we get, and then we get to this third beautiful beauty of the whole creation, which if we can keep silent, if we can keep in bliss, if we can keep happy, which may not always mean silent, but if we can keep happy, then the whole world around us is just so fun. It's just so enjoyable, nothing at all. So that is what Tripur Sundari is about. And I said it, she is related to Sri Vidya and to Sri Yantra, because she is, in a way, if you see these three, the ultimate point, right, or the end point. She is, really like the cherry on the cake. If you tell people, okay, you should not be too much attached, look at Kali, they're like, yeah, that's not bad, it's helping, yeah. And then try to keep silent, not to ask any questions, just accept and, be, and, you'll be at peace, then okay, they'll go like, yeah. But then once you start telling them that in that silence there is a bliss, and in that bliss there is the beauty of pure perception and making this whole world enjoyable, then that is the cherry on the cake. And that is why she is called Sri Vidya, the ultimate female understanding or truth. And when I say female, I mostly mean about manifestation. That is what is then, attributed to the female side, the Shakti, manifesting the universe, giving birth, you could say, to the universe. And so in that way, very often Tripur Sundari is worshipped through Sri Yantra. And I will not go into Sri Yantra, because to explain that is another class, which I would love to do also sometime, but there's a whole science to it, and this is a very, very powerful yantra to work with in meditation, and to use also in many other ways is possible. So that is part of what Tripura Sundari is about. Is maybe also the right moment to say that when I'm talking about the Mahavidyas, I'm really only talking about the meaning of it, right? And a bit about, what you can do with that, and I'll say something more there about Tripur Sundari. But you have to understand that these are tantric mysteries that really involve so much more than just understanding and some basic exercises. This is a whole knowledge where, in Tantra we can really engage with these energies, attract these energies, create these energies inside of us, and in that way really make the whole theory truly part of your practice, no? And of your life. So this is a very different thing, but honestly this is not something that can be explained here in a online class. And anyhow, to work with this in the tantric way means usually that you choose one of these 10 Mahavidyas and you start working with that one for quite some time. And I'm not talking about weeks or months, I'm talking about years. And then okay, maybe if for some years, like I am actually working quite a lot with Kali, you have been working with one of these, then okay, maybe another one also can be added to it. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's still something, very special and should be properly guided, no? And so I have guided some people to start working, for example, with Kali and with few other of the Mahavidyas, but yeah, Kali is my own Ishtadev, so that's more easy. So if that is what you're interested, I can help you with that on a personal level, send you some descriptions of rituals to do or things to do or add to your meditation. But so that's a different story. The main practice, of course, related to Tripur Sundari, which everybody can do, is to be happy. Whenever you feel the world around you is no longer fun, know that this is your own doing. I'm saying something now, many people will have a problem with that, I think. No? And okay, some people really also need to learn to better defend themselves. So they may be needing, the idea that somebody is responsible for their unhappiness and they should defend themselves. No, I'm not saying that. But once you're a little bit beyond that, and you have the, let's say, natural assertivity needed in life, so that other people are not, creating too much trouble for you, then know that whatever you feel is wrong around you is actually in your own perception. And this is an absence of happiness inside, an absence of bliss inside. So whenever you feel that, just use whatever means you have to detach, Kali, from the world, to find your inner peace, your inner silence, Tara, and then let the bliss come, and with this bliss again come out and enjoy the world. So that is the main practice. As I said, whichever way. For some, the mantra will be needed. Like in some situations, I've said it last time, in some situations you are emotionally so much disturbed by what happened around you that just trying to keep silent is not possible. So then, okay, there are some mantras that can be used for specific purpose to do that until, you really can come to this silence, and then, then you're done. So that is the practice, and well, I don't really know what is your experience. I mean, it will be different for everybody, but once you have like the knack of just being able to hold still for some seconds, then you can work. If you want to work with Tripur Sundari, you can work on letting that bliss follow out of it, and then holding on to that bliss. And that is a very interesting, simple practice, but very, very powerful, which you can practice at any time, especially whenever you're feeling maybe not so good, but it's going to be more fruitful if you also practice it at other times, like maybe, sitting on a bus or whatever you are doing, just hold for a moment, just, and then taste that bliss that is coming, and let it grow. And one of the practices that relates to that is heart breathing. So that is what I like to a little bit give you today also as a practice which only needs a few minutes every day, so it's really not much. This heart breathing, because heart breathing and feeling the bliss of the self are very related. So what do I mean by heart breathing? It's a number of techniques, you could say, and the more simple that they are, the best actually. But usually in the beginning people need something a little bit more. So let's say that you can start by following your breath, ingoing, outgoing, concentrating in the area of the heart center, I mean the heart chakra. So this is here, and not like here on the left side. It is very much in the center and a bit lower than the physical heart. So you bring your attention there, and then, for example, you can visualize when the breath comes in that also some energy, let's say some light or some spark, some prana, some life force, it comes in, and when you breathe out, it again comes out in the same place. This is the basic pranic breathing through the heart center. And when you are exercising that, you have a good chance to start feeling your heart chakra. It's a little tricky, and especially for people who may have some stomach issues. Sometimes I teach this to people, and then they come back and they say, oh, my heart chakra is hurting. The heart chakra is never hurting, not in any physical way, not giving a sensation of pain. If something in that area is hurting, it's the stomach. Maybe you have a little bit of acid reflux problem or some other thing. It's a very big nerve actually at the entry of the stomach. And so if the problem is there, you can feel that pain quite strongly. So maybe forget about that practice of the heart breathing for a while until your stomach problem is solved. It's no problem actually to do it, but it will be confusing. But so if you don't have any problem there, then by doing this breathing exercise, by doing this visualization exercise, which will also stimulate the energy around the heart chakra, you will start feeling that heart chakra. It's very subtle. As I said, people usually get a little confused about physical feelings. This is not a physical feeling. This is something more subtle. Not difficult, actually, but subtle. So, and when you do that exercise, you will see this is also very much a bliss generator. Actually, the self, if we want to give it a location in the body, then in normal situation it always resides in the heart chakra. Or actually in one chakra inside the heart chakra, but okay, that's technical detail. So when we do this, then automatically the bliss of the self comes. If we can hold the mind still and focus there, following our breathing, maybe not visualizing. I've stopped that years ago, but in the beginning it may be very useful. You're not maybe visualizing, just feeling that. And with the breath, with the breath you give this feeling like a power. You make it stronger. Then automatically a smile will come. Easily a good feeling comes. So that is a practice which anybody can do, and quite easy to develop. If just for 1 week you a little bit focus on this, you will make already huge progress. I must say that this series is very interesting for me personally also, because every week, I don't really prepare these classes in any serious way. But every week I just concentrate a little bit more on that story and on the practices that relate to it. So the past week has been a very blissful week because I've been quite consciously making the extra effort to generate a little bit more bliss. And in that, my heart chakra has been very important. And I can already see just this 1 week with a little bit more attention to it, it already, like re-established that connection which was actually created many years back. But in the meantime, you forget many things, no? Or you forget to focus on it, no? So now I was again more focusing on it, and I was smiling because of the power of it, because it's incredible. So I cannot say what is with me, how other people experience, how easy or difficult it is. I don't know. It does not matter. I can only say if you exercise this, first with visualization, probably, and then just awareness here of the breath passing through this center, very easily it will become to create the feeling of bliss inside and to keep it. It's a beautiful thing also to do if you are feeling a little bit like lazy and you want to lie down. Then you can do a mantra or something, also possible. And maybe in combination with the mantra or not or whatever, you can do this exercise with the heart center. And feel there very happy, blissful inside, connected to your heart center. And so all these exercises then help you in life so that whenever a little disturbance comes, very easily you can find your smile back. Another forced smile, a smile that really comes from inside. In Western medicine or science, they have really also researched the effect of smiling. Very interesting, actually. One of the main conclusions I remember is that the production of neurotransmitters that make you feel more happy, caused by smiling, is much, much more powerful than chocolate. We have to understand also that our addictions are all things which we try to do same way. Same reason why people get attached to chocolate, because the taste of it gives a little bit of a bliss, it gives a little bit of a good feeling, so that's what they are looking for. But very easily you can find it inside, and a little smile already there works miracles. And when I say a little smile, I don't mean a big smile. Especially if you start combining this heart breathing with a real meditation, which is of course also possible, that you meditate on a mantra but at the same time you are feeling like this bliss inside and keeping that little smile. When you're doing that, your smile should not become ecstatic. It should not become too big, because then again it creates a lot of noise, and the silence it goes, the concentration it goes. If you try to meditate on a mantra very happily, it will never work, because that, more ecstatic happiness, it destroys your concentration. So that little smile, you can find it there. It brings you Ananda. Just a sec. So this is, how to live life in a way. Be well connected in the heart. Be able to stop mind for a short while. Then concentrate here, then a little smile comes, then you're fine. Then you just stick to it while observing everything and finding everything beautiful and enjoyable, get nice feedback from that, and whenever a little storm cloud comes, here again, connect here and stay in touch, and this is the wisdom. And we find so many sideways, no? which don't work. No? Like for example, one of the main neurotransmitters involved with use of cannabis is called Ananda. Is the neurotransmitter related to cannabis which produces Ananda, which produces a little bit of bliss feeling also. No? That's why people get so attached to it. But of course then you are again taking it from outside and being dependent on it. And it will never have that same power. Of course, sure, if you use cannabis, then the world outside also looks a little bit more beautiful, no? And a little bit more interesting. But then when the effect is gone, then you are back, no? So in that way, people use many sidetracking, which don't, solve anything, no? While actually the solution is very easy. Very easy. If you can just say, come on, shut up, and go, the smile, it comes. Very easily it comes. So yeah, this is the very big secret. The biggest secret of Tantra. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder and in your blissful feeling. So you become a master of bliss, and everything is solved. You don't need to be enlightened, for these things. I was thinking about that subject this morning after my meditation. And I'm like, if you have the power, the way I've been explaining here, to be happy whenever you want, which means, if you want, you can also be unhappy. That's your God-given right, Then what's the use of enlightenment? Huh? You can just enjoy and be that actor, be that person needed in the moment, perfect in that very moment. Bliss, Tripur Sundari, Shodashi. The whole world will look as a 16-year-old maiden. Or boy, if you prefer. It doesn't matter. So, that was the story of today. But maybe there are some questions. First of all, maybe I have a class on chakras on YouTube where I talk about it for more than 2 hours, I think. So that's for the more lengthy answer to your question. Second, very important to understand that the chakras are not in the physical body. They are sometimes in, let's say, the same place as certain glands, like the pineal gland related to the third eye or the sixth chakra is a typical example. But they are not glands, they are not in the physical body. With no microscope one will ever find these chakras, because they are in the energy body. And then of course science has a problem, sure, but yeah, that's the problem whenever science has to go beyond matter, let's say, and go to the more subtle energies, that it's limited in its ability to detect and understand what is there. But so that must be clear. When we talk about chakras, we are not talking about the body. There are relationships between the chakras and the body, but actually these relationships are more related to the elements than they are related to particular parts of the body. Only, I would say, in the spine there is a more direct relationship between the energy and the physical body there. But in the rest of the body, this is actually more a relationship between earth element and first chakra, and water element and second chakra, and fire element and third chakra, and so on. This is actually where the relationship is, and it is a relationship of desire. So we can, in a way, understand all our desires, however you could say sophisticated they are, as expressions of desires of the elements. The earth element is the only one with a fixed form, so it wants to stick to that form, and it cries whenever that form is threatened. First chakra, desire. Water element always wants to feel good. So whatever in our emotions it go wrong creates desires in second chakra, and so on. I mean, I could go on for a long time. But so, yeah, I understand your question. You are trying to understand this old system of the chakras through Western science. And I'm not saying that there is nothing there, but most of the scientific world is not yet ready to work on the level of subtle energy. Some studies are being done, some equipment is being developed, let's say, where more subtle energies can be registered. But to give another example for is that when the soul leaves the physical body, when we die, there also a very subtle body is leaving the body. There have been researches, but very clearly the equipment that they have is not capable of measuring such a very subtle shift in the energy, because there are all these other energies, right? And they are much more gross, so in a way you could say they are much more powerful in the perception. And so in that way nobody has ever been able to like scientifically prove that something called the soul as a small energy bubble, let's say, was escaping a dead person. This has never been shown. So this is where the chakras are, on that level. And the only thing that I can say is that when we start working with the chakras, working with these energy centers, using certain sounds, for example, bija sounds, seed sounds, using certain geometrical forms, again, not actually yantras, they are more mandalas, and using other techniques, then we start seeing changes in the personality of the person who is doing that. Changes which do not come from, let's say, different belief systems, different way of looking at things, but changes which seem to come purely by these energetic changes. And also in my field of healing, for example, when I do healing, I always work on the chakras. I always work on these centers, and that also has an effect. I live it every day. So I can only say they are real, but they are not real in the sense of the material world. They are beyond it. And that's where science has such a big problem to look. But so for the rest, I think my class on YouTube on the chakras and the desires of the chakras and the relationship there with Kundalini Yoga is really very important if you like to understand more. So, well, when I do healing, I can feel if certain chakras are more blocked or not. Like essentially, I put some energy through it, and sometimes that goes very easy, and sometimes there is a lot of resistance. So in that way I can say, okay, there is a little problem in that chakra or in that chakra, or So that is the thing. Now then, if we are talking about people, we have to make a distinction between whether chakras are open or whether they are active. Because that is a totally different thing. So, in all people, you can say that all the chakras are somewhat active, at least a little bit. Actually, our energy has a natural tendency to move up and down on the ladder of the chakras, let's say, in a period of about 1.5 hours. But okay, many people will spend a long time during that 1.5 hours in the lower chakras and a very short time in the higher chakras. Maybe only 1/10 of a second in 7th chakra. They don't even notice it. No? So, but in that way the energy, it changes. And what it really means to go beyond the first 3 chakras, because the first 3 chakras are active in most people. First chakra is the desire for security, where we work, to have money, to pay the bills, and also may get quite feeling insecure when we get ill or in danger of something. This is where we protect the physical body. So that basically everybody has. Second chakra desire is then whenever we feel secure, we want some fun. After work, we want to party. So that is the desire that also most people have. There are some people who are so obsessed with first chakra that they have no more fun in life. They only work and sleep and eat. Some people are like that. They are caught by a demon called greed, and they think always they need more. So they don't want to spend. They only want to hoard more money, more houses, more cars, more, in order to feel secure. They're a little bit ill, mentally. So, but most people, they also enjoy the fun of the second chakra, which is the fun of the 5 senses, and the mind also, fantasy, books, movies, So that you find in most people. Then third chakra desire you also find in most people, but maybe a bit less. It is the desire to be somebody respected. The desire that when others see you, they are feeling you are good. The desire to be accepted by society and by others around us is very much, of course, also a desire to give us confidence by getting positive feedback. We feel a bit uncertain about ourselves, but okay, other people feel we are doing well, so we feel okay, we are not right. So this you find also in most people, but to different degrees. Some people are totally obsessed by third chakra desire, and they want to become famous. And even if they are already famous, they want to become more famous. Like now with the Australian Open, you can say, Serena Williams, she's trying to get, I was just reading before the class, she's trying to get 24 Grand Slam titles. So you can think, okay, you already got 23, what's the point? Yeah, but 24, nobody else has done. So this is a little bit an extreme expression of a third chakra desire, to be able to say, wow, I'm Serena Williams. So, but that to some degree we find in most people anyhow. But then, okay, then many people don't go much beyond that. And that is then to the 4th chakra, which is the heart chakra, where we start feeling unconditional love. And okay, still many people have it, but only for few people. Only maybe for their partner, their children, close family maybe, or close friend. But not beyond that. But so the opening of the heart chakra, when the heart chakra starts to really open and really become active, means we start feeling unconditional love towards, other people, even if we don't really know them or have no direct relationship or no direct benefit from them. In first chakra there is also love, but this is not unconditional. This is the love of, I don't know, the husband who thinks the wife is earning very well, so yeah, let's stick around. Yeah. So this is first chakra love, no? But so fourth chakra love is quite different, and so it then also expands towards nature, animals, plants, everything, no? That then becomes a desire, you know, of being together, really together, you know? So that, I would say, is what makes a person more spiritual. Still many chakras to go, but no, that is a first very, very important step. And then comes fifth chakra, the desire to understand. Then you start reading books which are not, you know, for fun, but you want to understand. And you are thinking a lot about it, and you are following classes, and you know, you're studying life. And then you go beyond understanding to the desire to meditate, no? The desire to be silent inside, the desire to identify with the self, which is, let's say, the ultimate idea you have found in the books. And so that is also the desire for enlightenment, no? The desire to escape all the nonsense. And then, okay, seventh chakra is beyond desire, so very few people actually reach there because we all have many desires. And very important here, that comes also at length in that class I was talking about, is to understand the relationship and the natural evolution in those desires. The first desire for security, as I say, is very natural. You also find it in animals. Then once the work is done and we feel secure, we like to party. That is also very natural. But if then we party a lot, let's say in youth, now we have this period where we are allowed to go out and party, and then we can't stop for a while, you know. But after a while, anyhow, we evolve because it becomes boring. Too much of the same thing, which actually has not much substance, no? Partying has not much substance, no? It's only experience, colors, lights, sounds. So then we want something more. We want to achieve something. That is the third chakra desire. We want to climb a big mountain. We want to have our own company. We want to write a book and, you know, be successful, or whatever, you know, it is. And then when we fulfill that desire to some degree, and we are respected in society, and we can say we have achieved something, then we realize that actually this does not bring us much. Because we thought that everybody would like us because we are important. But once we are important, we understand that no, it doesn't work that way. They may respect us, they may fear us, they may even, you know, behave as if they are our big friends, but actually they want what we have. Whatever we have achieved, they want it. They want to take the feet out of our chair, you know. We want to sit in that chair, you know. So then the desire comes for something even more substantial than social status. We want real love. We want people really to love us, not just respect us. And so then we love people, okay, but that creates a big problem, because then we don't only have our own problems. No? In the first three chakras we are only dealing with our own problems. Then all the problems of everybody who we love, they also come to us, because we want to make them happy. But they are unhappy because of this and of that and of that, and then we start working hard, you know, to help them. And that's a little bit like carrying water to the sea. There's no end to it. Always some suffering is there. And the more we expand our love to the whole universe, of course, then the universal suffering is there. And we ask why. Is there no better solution? Is there no way out of this game? And then we start reading books and questioning everything, trying to find a solution. Like Buddha did. He was also feeling very sad when he discovered that people were suffering so much outside of his palace. So then he wanted to find a way to end all suffering, and he started learning. So then we learn and this and that and chakras and gunas and Mahavidyas and lots of things until we understand the basic idea of the self, which is beyond all these thoughts and beyond all these problems, and solves all these problems and ends suffering. Bring us to Tripur Sundari, where the whole world is beautiful. So, and then we start to understand it's not so much about thinking, it's about feeling, it's about being, it's about meditation, and really at least ourselves no longer becoming a source of suffering for others, and really also in ourselves find that power, find that stillness, find that bliss, so that we can stop suffering. And then, when we have done that and we are beyond suffering, we also go beyond desire, because all desire is an answer to suffering. So in that way it's a natural process, and nobody can escape it, and even the worst idiot in the world will come to that point one day, or one life, maybe I should say. It can take many lives. And to look at it from that perspective is also interesting, because there it is said, if at the end of past life, let's say, you already had quite strongly developed fifth chakra, maybe not so much meditated and developed sixth chakra, but fifth chakra, you have already the understanding, then they say that by the time you reach adulthood, you will be again on that same level. Maybe a little bit relearning has to happen of what you have learned in past life, but quite early, maybe already in puberty, the heart chakra is very open, and you start caring for animals and you start caring for others in a way that is maybe a little bit unusual for a youngster. You already go a little bit beyond the partying. You don't mind the partying, but you're a little bit more interested already in something more. And by the age 25, 30, you're ready to start meditating seriously. And the one who already in past life meditated so much that his connection to the self is already very strong, by the time he passes away, in the next life very rapidly he'll again go there. So by the time that one is an adult, he will already be a yogi and already be in samadhi very easily, and probably start helping others to reach the same. So that's how it works. I think that answers your question. Well, first of all, they alternatingly move in clockwise and counterclockwise sense. So, and that is something which is fixed. That is not something which changes because a person is not feeling very good or whatever. That is fixed. That is for everybody same. That is because one chakra is solar and the other is lunar. Because that is also very important to understand. In the chakras, the first chakra is solar, the second chakra is lunar. So it turns the other way around. And when it comes to the experience of energy moving in the chakras, I cannot simplify it. It's very complicated. It is not like there is one wheel turning or one, I would say, a spiral movement of the energy. That is indeed the central experience, let's say. But there are many smaller you could say, sub-chakras in the chakras. No? They are usually symbolized by the petals that are shown, the lotus petals that are shown in the drawings of the chakras, which each have a particular meaning, but which also each point to a particular motion of energy within the chakras. So I actually did not completely finish my story about chakras being open before, I forgot. A chakra who is fully open, that I have never seen in my life. Although it exists, but only with really high saints. The first chakra being fully open, no more blockage, everything flowing totally as it should, totally in balance. That person has no fear of death at all. That person usually needs to be protected or they just run under a bus, you know. They have no sense of security at all. The second chakra being fully open is not only supposed to be a master artist who can use whatever means, whether it is sound or paint or, you know, any of the five senses, to make everybody cry or everybody, you know, being emotionally touched in a very strong way, like some, you know, master musicians, for example, or artists are able to do. I'm not saying they have the fully open second chakra, but something must be there. But so that means that this person is totally detached from like and dislike, what we were talking about also before. No? That person really has Tripur Sundari, because beauty is everywhere, and you can put, let's say, shit on his plate, he will enjoy it just as much as the, you know, greatest dish in the world. So that is what it really means to have a fully open chakra. So let's not think, when we think about ourselves, that we should have no blockages in the chakras, nothing should be wrong in the chakras, because that's the same as expecting ourselves to be enlightened. Some work is there, some, you know, micro chakras are there, which need to be worked upon, and that's what, you know, makes the whole thing interesting, but also lasting quite a long time, you know, because some element, you know, we always can work on, and once we start moving up in the higher chakras, we also sometimes again need to come down and work on those lower chakras. You know, sometimes people, they become very spiritual and they meditate a lot, and, you know, they're very nice to everybody and really generating a lot of bliss and so on, but the bills are not paid. So then they have to come back to first chakra and work for a living. That is also natural. But they don't want that, they don't like that, they're like, oh, I'm above that. That doesn't work. The whole person must be, you know, in tune, in line. All the chakras must be involved. You can say that the ultimate person is the person who has all the chakras open and they are all working together. The energy is not either here or there, it is everywhere. So, but okay, that's something we can, you know, like try to live up to. But yeah, what I said before about chakras not being physical but energetic must not be misunderstood as if the chakras are something to do with energy that can be dealt with purely by doing energy work. That is also a misunderstanding. Energy workers, yeah, like me or others, like pranic healers, they can work on that. They can help with that. But still, it is a matter of evolution, of consciousness, and of desire. and you have to, let's say, outgrow your more animal nature related desires and develop more the divine desires, or whichever you want to call them, the higher chakras, that is still up to you. But okay, some techniques are there, both in healing and in yoga, of course, when we talk about Kundalini yoga, to clear these chakras, to clear the channels, no, the nadis, the energy paths. They are there, but that should never happen in too much of a forceful way, because that can actually also create problems. And if it is not balanced with a real change in your personality, let's say, with a real change in your desire, then whatever you have achieved through that Kundalini yoga or through that healing or energy work, it will rapidly again go. Like, for example, using certain techniques to bring a person in deep meditation. If they already have a bit of that, of course, if they are totally crazy, no. But if they are already a little bit balanced, then it's possible to bring a person in really deep meditation, in samadhi. But I prefer not to, because then that will create like a schizophrenic problem. Because that person is brought to a place where he actually not yet belonging. And that will conflict with the other desires that are still there. So we can try for, let's say, some magical solutions, and in case there is a real problem like which needs healing, then for sure. But the path of yoga should be followed, and we should not be in a hurry, and let that change happen naturally. As I explained, this is a natural process, nobody can escape it. The main thing is, don't get attached again to desires which actually already you have fulfilled and which are already satisfied, but still people stay attached to it. Like, okay, some people they like cake, and they had a lot of cake, but still to them their idea of fun is cake, even though it's no longer satisfying or not very much satisfying to have cake, because they had all the cakes, they could imagine or that they could buy in the shop, but still they stick to it because they have no other alternative. 90% of the people live like that, I'm sorry to say. They keep going to the same holiday place they've been 10 years already, but still they go back because they know it and they kind of like it, and they feel, okay, that way we are secure to have a good holiday. But so, yeah, that is the only thing I would say in terms of chakras and desires, which is, to avoid. To keep clinging to desires where actually you already have fulfilled them and they are not very satisfying anymore. And life then becomes boring. But life needs not to be boring. There's so much more to discover around you, inside of you, if you just are able to a little bit drop that security, a little bit drop that, old stuff, and move forward. So that is the main thing. But whenever you feel blocked, yeah, okay, then some help can be found, both in the practice, as then you're with healers or other people who know how to work with these things. Yeah, that can be said, but this is mainly because in third chakra we attach so much importance to our social status, to our public image, and that is like the ultimate shape that the ego takes. No? What others think of us and how we appear in the eyes of others. So if we get very much into that, into, let's say, our being very special as individuals, then of course it will become very, very hard to accept ourselves to be very special in the self, which is the same in everybody. So that is correct, but only in that way, I would say. No, the fire element is the dominant element of third chakra. There is still some kind of sound disturbance. Everybody check their mics if they are muted or not. The third chakra is fire related. Fire creates light. And the light creates the problem that we are seeing. And so in the fire light, we get a little bit like worried about what do people see when they look at us. No? So that's where the illusion of the ego, of the individual, becomes, quite extreme. No? Like the Maya of Mayas. So you are quite right. But okay, a balanced third chakra means that you are confident in who you are as an individual. Not that you are not attaching any importance to that which you are as an individual, because that is also the role that you are playing in this life, why you came here, and then preferably, in harmony, which means also in balance with fourth chakra. That's what I was saying. The whole game is actually also about balancing all the chakras together, bringing them in balance with each other. It is not because we love everybody that we, have to neglect ourselves. That is a balance between third and fourth chakra that we have to find. We still have to, do what naturally comes to us in order to take care of ourselves and of our fridge, and first chakra, and why not of our pleasure, second chakra, and of our understanding, fifth chakra, and so on. So this. Whenever we feel opposition, we have to think in complementarity. And so all these chakras are very naturally there, and they are all complementary to each other. So to go beyond third chakra does not mean to totally lose individuality. That should be clear. Only to bring it in balance with the other chakras. Not create any problem for anybody because of it. And of course also not for ourselves, which means, not being too much concerned with other people's opinions about us. This is actually one of the places where I think we can have a lot of laughs when we start analyzing it. Because what we think that other people think of us is usually totally wrong. If we didn't start like really communicating with people about it, then we find that we had very absurd ideas about what people think of us. And maybe some of the things we were concerned about were totally irrelevant, and some of the things we didn't think about, they were actually more relevant. So that's a funny game. And the need to feel confidence because of the good feedback of others, that is of course the most essential part. We should feel confidence in what we know, in what we can do, in what we can offer to people and to ourselves, and that is independent of what these people are saying. That is quite a factual thing. But anyhow, also not get too much attached. We talked about that We talked about Kali, no? To whatever wisdom we have, to whatever skill we have, to whatever quality we have, because we can easily also lose it, and then creates more of a problem.